Glimpses by Penstroke. Variance 4. Bloodstone, Uniform, Gold, Sapphire. I thought you were taking care of the alarms. Nyx forced open the door. Horn argued with magic as he came to the two changeling guards just outside. They hissed, wings buzzed, and they tried to go for their weapons. But they never got to take aim. Swift blast from Nyx's horn was enough to knock each out. Their bodies flopping to the floor like wet noodles. I did, Rhea said over Nyx's ear. We did. Nyx glanced left and right in the hallway, checking for any more guards before dragging the two unconscious bodies back into the room. A few moments later, as he strode out into the hallway, their mission target was wrapped in a levitation spell, bouncing around behind Nyx like a balloon on a string. Doesn't sound like it, Nyx said as the assist's alarms continued to assault her ears, voice being picked up by the tiny microphone that reached down from her ear and rested against her cheek. That's not the intruder alarm. There's a hacker alarm, Jane answered. Told you not to snoop. Rhea's voice came back onto the radio, starting with a deep growl. Our whole reason for being here is to get information. I just thought it would be easier to get the data from their systems instead of trying to interrogate someone. The data is right there. And you didn't think it was perhaps too easy? Lynn hissed. It was like meat in a tiger trap, and you fell for it. Enough. Just be ready to move. I'm heading to your position now. Nyx kept moving through the dimly lit corridors of the ship. The walls flared a little as she passed. A strange amalgamation of technology, chitlin, and green flesh, looking more like the guts of some vast beast than a starship. She kept her constant pace, only slowing as she approached intersections. She checked her corners, stunned any guards that headed her way. Then she kept going. Cresswood, Adrian, how's our exit? Nyx dashed the radio as she came around to a corner and began galloping down a corridor. Getting toasty, Cresswood replied, the sound of blaster fire in the background. We said feather head to align the mirrors. Don't know how long we can hold our position. Just hold on. Once I have Rita, Jane, and Lynn, we're heading straight towards you. And the package? Cresswood asked. Nyx looked back at her levitation field, frowning at the creature inside. Queen Chrysalis, despite the revelation of the nature of her species, still looked the same, if not better, than she always had. Her chitlin was cleaned and polished, and the green markers had an otherworldly glow to them. Somehow, she made being unconscious look dignified. Her legs and head folded into her, with only her tongue hanging out of place. There wasn't even a mark from where Nyx blasted Chrysalis' face with a stun spell. Yeah, I've got the royal cockroach stunned and ready for transport. Just make sure we have a way out. The sounds of blaster fire reached Nyx's ears once again, but this time it wasn't coming over her radio. She lowered her head and powered forward, galloping at a full pace through the corridor. She rounded one final corner, seeing how a dozen changelings, all fired at a command console, was stood in the far corner of the room. Nyx cursed, seeing there were too many to take out a single blast. She took a few steps back, hiding behind the corridor or the connecting corridor, as a charge of magic built up her horn. A spear of energy formed and drooped from the tip of Nyx's horn, looking almost like a large drop of water. It grew heavier, almost threatening to break away and fall under the weight. Before it could, Nyx swung her head and lobbied the spell into the room as she said, Thunder in the cloud! There was a momentary pause, then a flash of magic as the stun bomb went off. A few seconds later, Nyx heard the sound of bodies hitting the floor. She listened and waited to make sure her spell had properly dissipated before she rounded the corner and stepped back into the room. The guards were all on the floor, and the creature that had been using the control console as cover stood up, however, three mouths snarling and baring carnivorous teeth. Just a little warning would have been nice, Rita, the tiger head of the Chimera, said. Jane, the goat head, huffed and leaned into little Rita's personal headspace. She did warn us. She shouted thunder in the cloud. Besides, she would have needed to warn us if you didn't set off the alarm. I'd set off the alarm, not the alarm. There's a difference. Semantics alone, Lynn, the servant hand, hissed. Nyx rolled her eyes as she moved over to Rizali, using her prehensile, ethereal tail to flick all three of them on the bridges of their noses. Argue about it later. We gotta move. It was Nyx's main move. tapping the call button on the radio as he began marching towards the door that led out the room and out the ship. Crestwin, we're on our way out. Exit still good? Yes, but we lost contact with Feather. She might have been intercepted in the mirror. Nix cursed, quickly about facing and taking a few steps to bring herself closer to Rita Lee. We need to get her then. Can't let them secure the mirror. Activate your markers. The three heads of Rita Lee went around. No, Nix, please, don't do it. Consider this the consequences of setting off the alarm, Nix said as he held out her hoof. Now give me the spare radio. Rhea groaned, but then glanced at Jane. Jane bleated her own distaste for the opposed action, but used the legacy control to dig into her saddlebags. She soon procured and passed on to Nix a spare earpiece. As Nix took his levitation spell, brought Queen Chrysalis close. Nix held the button on the side of the device for a few seconds, causing the little blue light to turn on before she inserted into the Queen's ear. As Nix levitated Queen Chrysalis back to where she had been floating, she could sense the magical signal being put off by the freshly inserted earpiece. That one signal was soon by following others, 3 from Rita Lee, who was clutching about every muscle in her body at once, looking like she was trying to hold her breath and pass gas at the same time. The other 2 new signals came from inside the ship. Nix waited until she was sure she could properly feel the 6 signals before closing her eyes. She rolled her shoulders, trying to calm her body and clear her mind as her magic reached out, passing through the ship's carapace to touch all the signals at once. Jumping in 3, 2, 1! Nix triggered her teleportation spell, blinking herself briefly out of existence, pulling everyone she had connected to in her wake. There was a moment's pause, while it was she and all the others existed in swirling colors and fibers of the teleportation plane. Then, with another pop, the spell spat them out at their destination. Nix spread her wings, catching herself and making sure she stayed aloft with her captive as they surveyed her surroundings. The tight corridors of the hive ship were placed with blue open skies and a wild grass field. The hive ship itself was nestled in the distance, in the shadow of a tall, barren mountain that made the alarms coming from the ship will carry a notable echo. The field below, there was a firefight going on around an oval-shaped metal frame that stood out like the pull tab of a zipper. Changelings were moving in, sitting in a constant stream of fire towards a round console that stood atop a low podium, the alignment console. Feather was behind the console. The Griffin had her claws wrapped tightly around her blaster pistol, as it returned fire while trying to keep her larger form tucked behind the console's insufficient cover. The 2 soldiers in the squad, Adrian and Crestwin, stepped into action as aid Feather as soon as Nix's teleportation spell finished. Crestwin then spread her teal Pegasus wings and flew out of Nix's field of view, raining blaster fire down on the changelings from above. At the same time, she heard Adrian, a light brown horse, land and roll in the tall grass. He was back on his hooves at the time Nixon landed, galloping around the changeling perimeter to attack their flank, using the blasters built into his helmet. All this happened as Nix and Rita Lee landed close to Feather. Nix touched down gently, wings showing her descent as she raised the spherical magical barrier around the alignment control console. Fighting a trio, a moment's respite from the battle, Rita Lee landed with as much gracefulness as a falling sack of potatoes, flopping down to the tall grass a few feet to Nix's right. The captive and still unconscious Chrysalis floated next to Nix, in the same position she had been for several minutes. I appreciate the timely arrival. Feather dared to poke her head out from behind the console, though her claws remained firmly gripped in her blaster pistol. Her eyes moved to Chrysalis. Is she still breathing? Last I checked. Nix lowered Chrysalis closer to the ground, though I wouldn't mind you checking her vitals to make sure. Rita Lee confessed to gain alignment. I didn't start setting the alignment. I heard the alarms coming from the ship, and my bad luck struck again. I hadn't even taken 10 steps when on a patrol, on its way back to the hive ship, spotted me and started blasting. She moved next to Chrysalis, her claws racing through Nix's levitation spell. She removed a few magical tools from her saddlebags. So set off the alarm. There's no point in silencing the blame. Rhea says she and her sisters managed to pick themselves off the ground. They moved to the alignment console, getting around to the far side. The device resembled a clock, but instead of 2 legs and 12 numbers, the device had 12 legs and 36 numbers. Rita Lee began to move the different metal legs into different positions, the console clicking loudly as gears ratcheted around. No point in tossing blame, Feather said as he used a claw to open one of Chrysalis' eyes to see if her pupil adjusted under the sun's bright light. So that means you did it. Jane and Lynn chuckled as Rhea growled. The three sisters pushed the last metal leg into place. They used their right forward paw to press down on a small, smoothly polished gemstone at the center of the device. There was a loud click. The arms of the device began to spin, slowly returning to their initial positions, while Nyx felt a familiar aura of magic taking shape. The nearby metal frame, also similar in shape to the mirror that connected to the human world, began to activate. Small, clear gemstones around its frame became illuminated with different hues of color. Small bolts of energy leapt between the gems. Their surges happening with greater and greater frequency as the glow of the gemstones grew brighter and brighter. As the energy leapt, a simmering field of magic formed in the center of the frame. It started merely as a distortion of the air, like waves of heat rising on a scorching summer day. The magic field, however, grew more opaque and reflective. Within a few seconds, the field was a mirror-like surface that rippled gently, distorting reflection of the world around it in almost mesmerizing ways. Well, took me 3 years, about close to 50 fanfics, but we finally got a Stargate, people. The shield was still holding, but the dampening sound of the laser fire rapidly increased in volume as soon as the mirror was aligned. The changelings were changing their targets, focusing a volley of fire against their barrier. Nyx grimace directed a patrol that made her exit more complicated as she tapped the radio in her hair. Celestia, Pinky, Mountain, Celestia, do you read? This is Apple Squad. The Dragon's Nest has been raided, but we've got fire on our flanks and are coming in hot. Mac is Apple, Pinky, Rainbow 7, 8, way to go. Apple Squad, this is Celestia, Pinky, Mountain, Celestia. Code confirmed. This way is clear and the last dance of the fall form has begun. Bear Mosey, a voice replied over the radio. You heard her. Move! Nyx bellowed as he watched her barrier closer to the mirror. Feather went through first with Chrysalis. Rija Lee followed quickly after. Nyx remained, holding up her barrier as Crystalline and Adrian retreated to their position. Adrian limped towards Nyx's barrier, his stunned leg dragging along behind him. Once safe, Crystalline reached out and pulled him along with her as she leapt through the mirror. Nyx's barrier was starting to crack when she jumped through the mirror itself, her body slipping through the field of reflective magic. Her body wrapped in a sensation like she had just fallen into cold syrup. She was unable to move, unable to breathe, and almost unable to think as the mirror's ancient maskets whisked her away. Worf and the freedom of move returned to Nyx when she popped out on the other side of the mirror. She landed, her momentum from leaping through a mirror forcing her to trot through a flight of steps before she could turn around. She saw their local mirror, a significantly more elegant version of the mirror she had just leapt through. Metal replaced with a thick, opaque crystal. Instead of being in a grassy field, their home mirror was sheltered and secured within the room of the Crystal Palace. They're through! Raise the barrier! Kate shouted above the many other voices in the room. At her command, an almost perfectly cleared magical barrier formed over the mirror's surface. Nyx, are you okay? The voice said again, his arms descending a set of stairs that connected the elevated command room to an actual mirror chamber. Kate suppressed quickly. Her aunt's body language made it seem like she wanted nothing more than to hug Nyx, but she restrained herself, simply standing eye to eye with her. Things got a little rough, but we're okay, Nyx said as she looked over her squad. Feather was doting over Adrian, checking on his stunned leg. Rija Lee was next in line. Nyx could only guess the Chimera was waiting to complain about some scrape or bruise she got because of the teleportation jump. Crystalline was putting on a tough act, but when it looked like he was favoring one of her legs. What matters is that we accomplished the mission. Nyx's gaze shifted to Chrysalis, who was being put onto a stretcher. The changeling queen was surrounded by 2 security guards and a medical squad. Resuscitation spells were being cast by the medics as the soldiers with blasters kept their weapons ready to fire. She might not be in the best of moods when she wakes up, Kane says as he watched the medic wheel Chrysalis away. I think we should have waited for her to reply. She's ignored it for a week. We can't wait any longer. When Chrysalis disappeared from the view down the hall towards the quarantine room, Nyx looked at Keynes. This time, there will be no bargaining, no lies, and no agendas. Is everything ready? The science and magic staff believe everything is ready. But we never used this on a changeling before. We might not get anything. Worse, we could end up killing her. Kane sighed, bringing a hoof to her face and rubbing her nose. Can't believe I just said that and meant it. I know our friends are few and far between right now, but today, this frenemy is more enemy than friend. Nick said as she took a step to leave. I'll go supervise things, then call you and Spike when we're ready. We can't magically sedate her longer without putting her health at risk. She's going to start waking up in a few minutes. Just when she starts to open her eyes, knock her out with drugs or a hammer. I need more time, Nick said, voice cracking like a whip. Creatures bustled around her. Technicians, air mix of magic users. Technical consoles beat, indicating even the tiniest fluctuations in the spells. The unicorn, zebra, and other magically talented species in the room were providing simple, raw energy. Even Spike stood amongst the others. His four claws planted firmly in his barreled chest worked as tirelessly as a furnace. Against a constant stream of fire, providing the largest contribution to magic to the spell. In the center of it all was Chrysalis. She was held suspended in the complex maxes of the chamber. She bobbed as if floating in the gentle, rocking currents of the ocean, and at first glance appeared to be surrounded by jellyfish. Amorphous blobs of color grew and bubbled for Chrysalis's eyes and ears, forming a gently turning kaleidoscope of colors. The swarm was being picked apart by Nyx and Canids, the pair sitting on clouds, at an even elevation from Chrysalis. Running luminous cushions, they used their magic to pull and tug on the balls of color, drawing them close and forcing them to focus. They were searching Chrysalis's mind, delving into her intellect and memories to find the information they sought. For a creature as old as Chrysalis, it was like trying to find a few key paragraphs in the vastness of the Crystal Empire's library after it had been hit by a tornado full of razor blades. Nyx rubbed her face as she pushed the blob back into the swirling vortex. Her exhaustion was right into her bleary, bloodshot eyes. They had been in it for hours, with nothing to show for their efforts. She now knew more about Chrysalis than she ever wanted to. She knew that Chrysalis knew her multiplication tables. She knew the names and faces of the most important creatures the Queen had seduced or impersonated. She saw the face of her uncle shining, and had to dismiss it quickly back into the miasma, for Cadence noticed it. She saw the day the ships came, and Chrysalis revealed herself to be a loyal terrestrial queen in a vast, space-faring empire. She saw some of their past encounters, times when they had been betrayed by Chrysalis, and other times they had been saved one another. Nyx, I know you don't want to hear this, but maybe she doesn't know. She couldn't see her Aunt Cadence on the far side of Chrysalis' thoughts, but Nyx glared in the correct direction. No, she knows. She always knows. She makes it her business to know. Maybe we could try a more traditional interrogation, Cadence said, voice weak from her long exhaustion. Even if I could, it would take us days, weeks maybe, to break Chrysalis. By then it would be too late. Nyx spread her right wing, flapping a few times to push her cloud current around the perimeter of Chrysalis' suspended thoughts. She moved to the far side of the spear, almost crashing it up against Cadence's cloud. This is our only chance to find the Vermilion Queen. There was a pulse of light. Cadence and Nyx looked at the memory, seeing several fresh blobs forming from Chrysalis' eyes and ears. Cadence glanced over at Nyx. Nyx then watched her aunt look down at the staff of the creatures that were maintaining the spell for the consoles. What happened? What's her status? The Queen's starting to come out of stun spell, so it'll be conscious in under a minute. Who cares? Nyx said, standing up on her cloud. She heard me. These memories, they're all of the Vermilion Queen. Mind spell pulsed again, more bubbles filling the space as the other memories turned to Chrysalis' mind through her horn. Cadence lifted a hoof to place on Nyx's shoulder. Nyx, we can't. The spell is too invasive for her conscious mind, as she's the only inside informant we have on the changelings. We can't afford for her to get hurt. Cadence looked back down at the staff below. Begin the shutdown sequence and ready for transfer her out of this room. She can't wake up here. No! We're so close! Nyx snapped, shoving Cadence away and jumping off her cloud. She used her wings to bring herself to the very edge of the mind spell. She could feel its energy washing over her, like tendrils of spiderwebs passed through her skin and clung to her mind. Still, she stayed at the edge of the spell, forcing herself over closer. Come on, you love-sucking cockroach. Where's the Vermilion Queen? Where is Twilight Sparkle? I see one of her eyes moving. She's waking up! One of the Pickasside Malacos staff shouted. Just a few more seconds, Nick shouted, eyes flitting between thought bubbles coming from Chrysalis' head. They're pouring out the Queen's mind like it was filled with an angry boil. Yeah, that's right. You hate my mother. You hate my family, don't you? You probably want to kill Twilight. You've probably made dozens of plans on how you do it, even after she was captured. You'd never just let her disappear, be given to some other queen. If anyone's going to have her power, it's you. So where is she? We're starting to get feedback. The Queen's mind is connected to the spell. That connection finishes, she'll be fried. Nix, we have to kill the spell now. One more. There! He makes his magic glassed out, snatching a single memory blob. One splash of red, purple, and what looked like to be galactic countenance. Shut it down! In an instant, levers were thrown, buttons were pressed. All the creatures providing magic to the spell stopped. The bubbles of thought began to flow back into Chrysalis' mind, fleeing like a school of fists that had been startled by a predator. The only one Nyx grabbed and levitation's magic remained, unable to escape. Nyx was staring at it, committing its every detail to memory. She could feel the spell pulling, trying to take back the thought as well. But she held on. She could not forget. She could not let this opportunity get away. Chrysalis was caught with a cloud, winged creatures carrying her back down to the floor and placing her back on a stretcher. She was stirring, but the effects of the spell would leave her groggy with a pounding headache. Medics and soldiers began to wheel her out, only wresting her away before she could focus on her surroundings. The last memory bubble escaped Nyx's grip, shooting back to the twisted mind it belonged to. Even as Nyx collapsed back to her cloud, she was smiling. She smiled, clinging back over her hose, sticking up in the air as cannons came in close. We got it, Nyx said, grinning like a kid on heartwarming. I know where she is. I just want to go on record again. I don't like this plan, Rhea said. Jane and Lynn were nodding their heads as they sat in the pilot's seat. Nyx and her squadron were in a small, crystalline shuttle, idling in the void of space. Nyx was in the co-pilot's seat. Her eyes focused out the window, while Cresswin, Adrian, and Feather were in the back, all of them double-checking their gear. Your protest is noted. Again, Nyx said before her ethereal mane gently tapped her earpiece. Celestia Emerald, this is Snowflake 1. We're in position. Keynes' voice buzzed over the radio in the small cell. Roger, Snowflake 1. We're already on our end, too. Best of luck to you, and bring her home. Just make sure we got home to come back to you, Nyx said to her aunt, or smiling a little. Make sure the cafeteria makes hayburgers tonight. Nothing says welcome home Twilight like a hayburger feast. I'll be sure to let the kegs know. Small bit of levity in Keynes' voice faded, leaving only the strong, commanding voice that everyone in Nyx's squad knew too well. Cloak is dropping in 3, 2, 1. At the front window of the shuttle, Nyx could see the blackness of space and speckled stars warp, as if they were suddenly on the far side of a very thick lens. The lens began to melt, leaving behind its wake the silhouette of a ship. The entirely crystalline hull glinted in the exterior lights. An undeniable sense of awe filled Nyx's mind. Aw! He said awe! A-W-E! Ooh! Thank you, Nyx. The Crystal Hope, once the centerpiece of the Crystal Empire, floated into space as a marvel of magic and technology. It shared its origins with the Galactic Mirror System, the legacy of a spacefaring society that had fought and presumably been destroyed by the Changelings. You know, I still can't believe it took us this long to do a Stargate reference. I must be slipping. The Crystal Hope had also been the only thing that had saved Equestria from a similar fate when the hive ships entered the planet's orbit for the first time. They spent years protecting the ship. Many lives and other ships were lost during the ensuing that Crystal Hope didn't fall. Now, they just dropped it off in the middle of nowhere, entirely alone. It was unguarded, and for the signals it was sending out, disabled and in need of assistance. Also, besides Stargate, Battlestar Galactica. I shall let you guys know, I have never seen an episode of either Battlestar Galactica, the classic, or the remake. I'm looking over at my little brother, and he's thinking, yeah, when are we going to fix that little mistake? It was like leaving a slice of cake unguarded around Celestia. Even if it was an obvious trap, someone would take the bait. Sensors on the cell beeped, and after pressing a few buttons, Rita Lee grimaced before looking over at Nyx. Well, it worked. Long-range sensors are showing that the nearby hive ships are just starting heading our way. With their hyperdrives, they'll be here in 10 minutes. They put us in position. I want to board the Vermilion Queen's ship with a minute of it dropping out of hyperspace. The Crystal's Hope shields will only hold on for so long. Every second counts. Nyx turned in her seat, looking back at Adrian, Creslin, and Feather, securing their landing port, making sure Rita Lee had a console to work with. Lethal Force is authorized. Once I have our target, I'll teleport back to the ship with her. Understood? Everyone nodded their heads, and Nyx returned to nod before looking out the front window. It was the calm before the storm, the moment's peace before they would be heading back into battle. Nyx, however, felt no nerves of fear. Her heart steeled with determination, and a few whispered words would escape her lips. I'm coming to get you, Mom. Variant's End. What might happen to Nyx in the distant future? Well, that all depends. Is this a Fallout style story? Because I know a few stories. It's called, well, let's see. First, we've got Sinso and Alicorn, and then we got Darkest of Tide, Brightest of Nails. And if I say any more, Trixie's going to kill me for trying to shamelessly plug this. Yes, we're only allowing the Fallout Starfleet stuff because you wanted to do, because you begged me. I get it. I did not beg you like a bitch to do these Starfleet and Nyx segments. Trixie has proof. Don't tempt her. Alright. Season 4. Season 4 was Nyx's journey would continue as always. But it would be shown that not only would Nyx be doing research into Dark King's true identity, trying to figure out who he is, and also into the versions of Dark King's souls generals. But she'll also continue to be working on a secret project. She won't tell her friends, and she won't tell her allies. She just says it's a secret. But she calls it Operation Rebirth. Throughout the season, we see Nyx doing interesting tidbits, like looking at different ways to use past memories or using energy, or even into alchemy, finding out the different laws of rule life and death, and even asking if there is a god, if there's an alicorn of love and an alicorn of light and an alicorn of the moon, who represents death in the great spirit of things. Is there an alicorn representing the fairy spirit of death as well? So he continues doing this research. So he's even there to support Spike when he's kicked out of Rarity's home because Rarity had to break his heart. Nyx is also the one who begins to figure something else out. For after all, Nyx may not be as smart as Twilight, but she is intelligent. And it's Nyx who tells every pony the big news about the 4 generals of Dark King. They're future versions of your loved ones. And thus, did each one of them have to end up facing a horrible fight with somebody they cared about. With the exception of Bad Horse, because, well, I still gotta do that whole entire Rarity and Spike thing somehow, and there is no way that I could possibly pause the story here. BAM! My apologies, but my little brother was doing a certain song and dance number in the background. Because I had to figure out some way to do Spike's rapid aging in order to move forward. And so thus does the story continue. But Nyx also starts finding out something else about Grand Ruler. And she starts trying to figure out how to connect all of this. And then she enters the realm of the dead. We end season 4 off with Nyx going into Tartarus. Her mission? Find Twilight's soul. And that's where the story ends for now. Join us tomorrow where I proceed to bring Nyx into Fall of Starfleet, Rise of Harmony. Was as I get to have a little fun with not only my own fic, but with my favorite little black alicorn OC. And I would be saying Estelle, but Estelle's is a dark gray.